Congratulations on the movie.
Thank you. Thanks.
So, in the end of the movie, near the end of the movie, Frankie says, thinking back to what was most important to me were I'm paraphrasing, but were the times when we were standing under the street lamps singing together. That was, what really made it for me. For each of you, what is the period that is the most fun to play, or the part that you think back of when you think of shooting this movie?
Oh gosh. Oh, for me it was the first day. I would say that first day for me was something else. Just kind of showing up on set, having it all sort of be actually so real. And we sort of talked about how that first day really set the tone for the entire film for us and how the approach was. We shot a musical number first. Wow. And then, which was something that we felt comfortable with because we'd all sort of been part of. Yeah. And then we went into a scene which was very improv based, which I think was something that you and I weren't necessarily quite prepared for.
We weren't ready for it.
Yeah, just I guess perform the show.
We said this in some of the interviews today, but on Broadway, the playwright is king. You cannot change the script. Right. You get fined by your union if you change the script. Literally, you cannot do it. Right. No matter how great an improver you are, save it for the rehearsal room. If it doesn't end up in the script, you can't do it on the stage. Well, film is very improvisational, so we were used to milking all of the value you could possibly get out of those lines as written. So we were prepared to be able to do that again on set, and we knew Clint worked really fast, so we didn't know.
Right.
But we got to set with our missing compatriot here, Vince Piazza, who didn't know that. He'd never done the stage production. He didn't have any sense that he had to stick to the script, and he didn't. And we look at each other with panic in our eyes that first day, and we're like, here we go. Here we go, because what are we going to do? Like, complain to Clint Eastwood or say, or we had to go with it. And it made a huge difference to the movie.
Yeah, and he's brilliant in the role, and he not only that, but it also works for the character and our dynamic with the character, for him to be so daunting and
unpredictable. He's a loose cannon, and so we never know what he's going to do. And what's funny is that in the movie, a lot of his lines that he was supposed to say as written, ended up in the movie in the edit. But his energy on the set made everything spontaneous in a way that, we're good at what we do on stage, making it spontaneous every time. But it really helped to give it a new life on screen, to be working with somebody who hadn't done it on stage.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
And Erich was there. He didn't work that day, but he was there with us that first day on set.
I came to watch.
So we all experienced that first day together.
Yeah, I just came to watch. I joined about a week later. I think listen, the whole experience, it all blurred together too, because every day was just surreal. But there was something about the final day the one day that we filmed two days in New Jersey, and I worked one of them. And they were our final 2 days of filming, and we were outside of Frankie's real house that he grew up in, and the word had gotten out, and the people lined the streets. There were hundreds of people behind barricades, and this one block was dressed up as 1962 with the cars and the everything like that, and the real Frankie was there, and Clint was there,
and
what?
Walking.
And walking.
They went nuts for him when they saw Clint. They clapped or whatever. Walked out to come into the scene. They went nuts for him.
Right, and for that day, because we had all done it again with the show, and we had all experienced a live audience. But then at this point, we had done pretty much 38 or 39 days of no audience, of really doing it for film. And all of a sudden, I felt again, there it is. Right. That's what this is going to be. And we saw people lining, and this wasn't lining the streets to be like touristy or about just trying to get a glimpse of Hollywood. These were hometown heroes. This was Frankie. They were there to celebrate Frankie, their history. There were a lot of, everyone that day was Frankie Valli's cousin. Right. I swear to God, it was Frankie Valli, twice removed. And that to me spoke to going to the working class of who this film was about, who it's for, who it honors. And they were there. They were right there. And it was one of those moments where you sort of go, we're filming a movie and it's exciting, and you go, oh no, now I know where we're doing this. Right. And so that was very cool.
I'd feel bad that this doesn't include Erich, but he got the stories afterward, and then we bonded on that. But the third day of shooting, we were in the desert, and it's a sequence that's been cut from the movie.
I was going to say,
it proved to be it proved to be a real bonding experience for us because we were shooting a scene where we're in the middle of the desert, we break down in a car. So we actually had to shoot the scene, have smoke coming in our face, actually choking on real smoke and all this stuff. Being stranded in the middle of the desert, it was so sweltering hot that day. Clint Eastwood is a real trooper. He had like a little tarp on the top of the pickup that the camera was in, and he was just like out in the heat with the rest of us, like
Yeah, no problem.
basically like a pig and and then that's the other side of that day. That day, the story of the band being out in the desert is it ends in such humiliation. Their car breaks down that they end up having to hitch a ride with a farmer that has the back of his truck is full of pigs, and the three of us guys were actually in the back of this truck with a bunch of pigs doing take after take, and every time the truck started, the pigs started. It was like a lesson in pig excretory system. Every single time this car started, it was like,
these pigs
we were like literally like this. We were like literally up on the bales of hay, like so that we wouldn't get
What I love is that it was the third
Messed
day.
up.
It wasn't like by at a certain point where you guys had all like, okay, we're used to this now, but it was like literally just jump into the back of that truck with no. It's
There's
really
nothing that bonds a cast more than being in the back of a truck with live pigs.
Yeah.
It's a shame that Clint doesn't. He doesn't include. Well, it's not a shame. I think it's good for his past movies, but I hope he breaks tradition for when this comes out on Blu-ray and puts some of these deleted scenes out because he does not do that for his movies at all.
I got my first bar fight on film, and
That was fun too.
I got to smash a bottle and go after somebody, but that was a great day.
It's lost in the ether, and people will never believe it.
I said to Clint once, instead I was like, this isn't very fair. Vince gets to break
Chairs.
break chairs apart over desks. The most I get to do is throw a teacup at the wall.
It's pretty wild.
I've met Clint Eastwood a couple of times. Once though was the wildest thing. It was a cocktail party in New York for the J. Edgar movie, the J. Edgar movie.
Right.
So they put us in. It was essentially like a big hotel room, and there's like Alan Cummings in the corner, and somebody from 60 Minutes was over there. Like it was kind of big stars in the room, and I'm kind of just looking around, going, "Wow, this is really cool." And then Clint walked in the room, and it was like the whole room just kind of tilted this way towards him without doing anything. He just walked in the room. Tell me your impressions of working with him, because we have all grown up with him. He's unavoidable that you are a Clint Eastwood fan.
Yeah, it's the same thing as that party. It really there's an amount of respect to him. His entire crew is pretty much retired. They just come back to work for him, and that happens. You walk in, he walks in, and everything is. But at the same time, he's the exact way for everyone else. He is so, and that's why it goes that way towards him. His set is so quiet because no one has to say a word. They all know exactly what each other wants. There's so much respect. He would come up to us and say, "Did you like that? What did you think?" And if you had an idea for a shot, I'd say, "But what if I came in this way?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, let's try the camera." He was very collaborative, and that energy. It's just. I did a project right after Jersey Boys, with people who are nowhere near Clint's accomplishments, and it was pure chaos. And it had nothing to do with them not knowing what they were doing. It came down to ego and other things, and it was just like, why? How is Clint Eastwood, 84 and still making movies, and you're going to be done after this, and you didn't even get, and this is crap. So it's amazing to me that how he works and how special it is, and how I hope that people know that about it. And I hope his legacy is not just his finished work, but the professionalism that went into making
He's deeply revered.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way after working with him once as I think his people that have working with him for 20 plus years feel.
He's one of these people that commands respect but doesn't need to demand it.
Right.
Yeah, he commands respect. He doesn't.
And let's be honest. It might have something to do with Dirty Harry and the Man Without a Name.
Absolutely.
You don't want to take the risk of screwing up.
Oh, right. You don't want to see that side of him. That's true. Yeah, it's funny. I read an article once just about actors who are working with him and just talking about doing the takes, and how he sort of he prefers less takes, and how on the set, if you're in a scene and we're doing 5 and 6 and 7 takes, everybody starts to get a little bit tense. thinking that it's them, because you don't want to be the one who is breaking the tradition of the 1 to 2, 3 takes, you know? Because I just think there's so much respect for him, and I think, and as you said, it's so well returned. He is such a collaborative, respectful guy, and trusting of his actors, which I think is such a wonderful thing to have in a director.
He said something really interesting one day, very quickly. Is one of us was needing more takes on something that, because it's something technical, not because of acting or whatever, but just had to get something, the timing right. And he walked by and sort of said under his breath, just under his breath, or just like nonchalantly, you know, this, if everyone could do this, everyone would.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. There's a real difference, I think, between Broadway stardom and any other kind of stardom, and by that I mean, because you guys have all been on Broadway, it feels different to me in that there's you're doing 8 shows a week. The hours are different. You're living completely opposite to the way that everybody else in the world lives, and you're playing in front of people, and it's so immediate. The response you get is so immediate. Tell me just a little bit about the experience of that, of experiencing that, because it's much different, I think, than film stardom or anything like that.
Jersey Boys is a machine at this point,
right?
And we have all been a part of the show at different incarnations and at different point in Jersey Boys' life.
Right.
But the one thing that we can universally say about it is that it is a literal rock concert every night. We never got bored of doing the show because it was so exciting to do. And that energy carried over to the film, even in days that went long and they were sort of like, dark or dry scenes. It was just a party.
That audience, knowledge of that audience reaction is in our head and in every single thing that we do in these characters on stage. I mean, you cannot forget when you're doing the same character on screen. You know where the audience responds to, where they laugh, all that stuff. And even though it's just crew guys and crew Clint and your fellow actors, you got those instincts in there. You have the audience is there with you.
I hope this sets a precedent. I really hope this sets a precedent from that. You don't often need the names to sell it. What you need is the right casting.
And Clint Eastwood.
And great material. I think
I
think that's what's unique about Jersey Boys, is that it is just such a wonderful script, and it's so great also because I think the audience really invests in these people because we talk directly to them.
Right.
And I think we've carried that over into the film, and I think that gives people the opportunity to sort of really connect with the characters, and I think that's what makes the story immediate and timeless and fun. Yeah, and fun, and keeps people coming back.
We're just understand. Was it daunting to have Frankie Valli there?
By the time, in the life of Jersey Boys and my experience with it, by the time this movie rolled around, no. The most daunting was before we even opened on Broadway. He showed up unannounced at a rehearsal before I'd even completed my work on building the character. That was the most daunting because I was like, oh, crap. I haven't even worked on the second half of Act 2, and so that was nerve-wracking. But by the time we got to the set, I think he and I just both enjoying watching his life be, now immortalized by Clint Eastwood.
But here's the thing, if you don't write a good review for this, I guarantee you, Frankie Valli will show up at your work.
Yeah.
He has a tendency to show up when he doesn't like something, just letting you know.
Right.
It was wild though.
He knows some people who know some people.
But I have to say, looking out in some of the performances, he would be sitting there in the audience watching us perform, which was just full circle and crazy.
Can you imagine being him?
I know.
What? Why? Why would you want to see this? Why would you want to see it?
Right.
I couldn't do it. So it's very, very impressive what he's done.
Yeah, maybe he just kind of divorces himself from it a little bit.
Yeah.
He enjoys the story.
You must, right?
I think there's a little bit of a tug of war there.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable sometimes and yet elated at others.
Right.
It's hard to serve your own life and your story up for public consumption when you're a performer and your job is to give them a part of you, which is your singing.
Right.
He's got to give up a lot of himself now, and I think that these years of Jersey Boys' success across the world have been exhilarating for him, and also at the same time a little vulnerable because he's sending up these things about himself that he might not have really
It's true.
been willing to do at a certain point in his life.
And when they wanted to make this, when it was in its first inception, they said, if we're going to do this, we have to do it warts and all. That's the only way to do this story. And I think there was a little bit of that push and pull, but I think they settled on a great balance of it, and I think it represents it well and shows the grittiness juxtaposed with this kind of pop music that
And
they
the
were
checks
singing.
don't hurt. I'm sure.
Right, yeah.
If the world's checks don't hurt.
If the check clears, it's a hit.
That's right.
Gentlemen,
Thank you
thanks
so much. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Great to
thank
talk
you.
to you.
All right.
Congratulations on it.
Thanks.
Yeah.